I wasn't invited to my own daughter's wedding. The day I dreamed about since she was born, I watched from my living room couch, alone, through a secret live stream link she sent me. Strangers cheered. Her father, the man who walked out when she was 7, walked her down the aisle. He even thanked me in his toast for stepping aside. Years of love, sacrifice, late-night fevers, and double shifts erased in one elegant vineyard ceremony. But what happens when the bride finally calls at midnight, voice breaking, saying she watched the video too and realized she'd broken her own mother's heart? This is the raw, real story of silence, regret, betrayal, and the kind of love that waits, even when it's not chosen. Hit play. You won't look away.
My name is Eleanor Hayes, and if you'd asked me 5 years ago how my life was going, I would have smiled that practiced small-town smile and said, could it be better? I lived in a modest 2-story craftsman in Bellevue, just east of Seattle, the kind of place where the evergreens lean over the roof like protective uncles and the rain taps polite little rhythms on the windows year-round. I'd spent 23 years as a guidance counselor at Bellevue High, helping kids untangle their futures while quietly stitching my own back together. My daughter, Sophia, was my everything, my proof that the hard years had been worth it. She was born on a foggy October morning in 1996, the same week Bill Clinton was reelected, and the world felt briefly hopeful. I was 28, still married to Mark then, though the cracks were already showing. Mark left when she was 7, packed a duffel, kissed her forehead while she slept, and vanished into the kind of silence that echoes louder than screaming. I didn't cry in front of her. I waited until she was at school and sat on the kitchen floor with a bottle of cheap Merlot and let the grief come in waves. After that, it was just us, me working double shifts at the school and waitressing weekends at a diner that smelled like burnt coffee and bacon grease. Sophia in dance class, then soccer, then debate club. She was bright, stubborn, beautiful in that effortless way that made people turn their heads. I told myself every late night and every overdrawn checking account was an investment in her future, and for a long time, it felt like it was paying off. She went to UW, majored in communications, landed a marketing job in Portland right out of college. We texted every day, silly memes, pictures of her new apartment, complaints about traffic on I-5. She still called me Mama when she was tired or tipsy. I kept her childhood bedroom exactly as she'd left it. Lavender walls, posters of bands I pretended to like, the quilts I'd sewn from her old t-shirts. It was my shrine to the girl who used to crawl into my bed during thunderstorms. Then came the morning that changed everything. It was October 12th, 2025. I remember because the coffee maker hissed like it was annoyed with me, and the sky outside was the flat gray that makes you forget what blue looks like. I was scrolling Facebook at the kitchen table, still in my robe, when her post appeared at the top of my feed. A black and white photo of her left hand resting on a man's knee. A diamond solitaire caught the light just so, big enough to look expensive without screaming for attention. Her nails were painted soft rose. Caption, he asked, I said yes. Hashtag engaged, forever starts now. My heart did that stupid, joyful flip it always did when good things happened to her. I zoomed in. The ring was perfect. The hand was unmistakably hers, the tiny scar on her knuckle from the time she fell off her bike at 9. I felt tears prick my eyes before I even realized I was smiling. I typed immediately, Soph, I'm crying happy tears over here. When did this happen? Call me when you can. I love you more than words, baby girl. Sent. I waited. Refreshed the page. Nothing. No little scene marker, no heart react, no 3 bouncing dots. I told myself she was probably still asleep or maybe out celebrating with James, her boyfriend of almost 3 years, the one she described as steady, funny, kind of a nerd about craft beer. I liked James. He sent me a Christmas card last year with a photo of the two of them at some snowy cabin. Polite. Normal. By evening, still nothing. I texted again, lighter this time. Just checking in, dying to hear the proposal story. Heart. Read at 7:42 p.m. No reply. The next day, same thing. Silence. I called, straight to voicemail. Her voice, familiar, bright, told me to leave a message. I did, kept it short, cheerful. "Hey, sweetheart, just wanted to hear your voice. Congrats again. Call when you can." Weeks passed. Thanksgiving came. I cooked the full spread anyway: turkey, stuffing, her favorite sweet potato casserole with the marshmallow topping, even though she'd said she and James were spending it with his parents in Marin County. I set a place for her at the table out of habit, then stared at the empty chair until the food went cold. I posted a photo of the table on Instagram with the caption, "Missing my girl today, grateful for her every single day." She liked it, no comment. Christmas was worse. I mailed her the pearl necklace I'd worn on my own wedding day. Simple, elegant, the only nice thing I'd kept after the divorce. I wrapped it in tissue paper printed with tiny silver stars and wrote a card, "Something old for your something new. I'd be honored if you wore it. Love you forever, Mom." The tracking said delivered. No thank you text, no photo of her trying it on, nothing. By March, the save the date arrived. Not in the mail to me, but in my Facebook feed again. A soft watercolor graphic of grapevines and golden light, Sophia Marie Hayes and James Alexander Reed, June 15th, 2026, Napa Valley. A vineyard wedding, romantic, expensive. No personal message. No, "Mom, I can't wait for you to see this place." Just the public announcement, like I was any other follower. I liked the post, added a heart eyes emoji, and "So beautiful, can't wait to celebrate with you." My finger hovered over the send button for a long time before I pressed it. Still nothing. That's when the cold feeling settled in my chest. Not dramatic, not loud, just a slow, creeping certainty. Something was wrong. Not busy bride wrong, not caught up in love wrong. Deeper, sharper. I started replaying conversations in my head. Had I said something wrong last summer when we met for lunch in Portland? Had I pushed too hard about grandkids? Had I not asked enough about James's family? Every memory felt like evidence now, every silence a clue. I didn't sleep much after that. I'd lie in bed listening to the rain and wonder what I'd missed, what I'd done, what invisible line I'd crossed that made my own daughter decide I didn't belong at the moment I'd spent my entire adult life preparing for. The wedding was 3 months away, and I still hadn't been invited. I couldn't wait any longer. The silence had stretched into something solid, something I could feel pressing against my ribs every time I breathed. By early April 2026, the Save the Date post had been up for weeks, liked by hundreds of people I didn't know. College friends, coworkers, distant cousins who'd never met Sophia in person. Everyone congratulating her. Everyone except the one person who'd changed her diapers, taught her to ride a bike, sat through every parent-teacher conference with a notebook and a forced smile. I booked the day off work, told my principal I had a family emergency. It wasn't entirely a lie. I packed an overnight bag just in case. Old habit from years of being the one who always showed up, always fixed things. I threw in the pearl necklace again, wrapped in the same starry tissue paper, because maybe seeing it in person would soften whatever walls she'd built. I told myself this was normal mother-daughter stuff. Weddings make people crazy. She was stressed, that's all. The drive from Bellevue to Portland took just under 3 hours. I-5 was its usual mess. Construction near Tacoma, a slowdown around Olympia, but I barely noticed. My mind kept circling the same questions. Why no call? Why no text? Was James's family pressuring her to keep things small? Were they one of those old money types who thought a guidance counselor from a working class background didn't fit the aesthetic? I pulled up to her building around 2 p.m., a sleek mid-rise in the Pearl District, exposed brick, bike storage, a lobby that smelled like eucalyptus and money. She'd moved here last year with James. I'd helped her unpack boxes the weekend she signed the lease. We'd laughed about how adult she was, how she'd finally outgrown the IKEA phase. I buzzed her apartment number. No answer. Buzzed again. Nothing. I waited 10 minutes in the lobby, pretending to check my phone while the doorman gave me polite side-eye. Then the elevator dinged, and there she was, Sophia, stepping out in black leggings and an oversized hoodie, hair in a messy top knot, earpods in. She froze when she saw me. "Mom?" Her voice was small, surprised, like she'd seen a ghost. Not angry, not happy, just startled. "Hi, sweetheart." I tried to keep my tone light, the way I used to when she came home crying from middle school. "I was in the neighborhood, thought I'd surprise you." "You drove down?" "Yeah, I wanted to see you, congratulate you properly about the engagement, the wedding." The words felt clumsy coming out, like I was reading from a script I hadn't rehearsed. She glanced behind her, toward the elevator, then back at me. "James is at work, late meeting." "That's okay, I just need a few minutes. Can we talk?" She hesitated, long enough that I felt the crack widen, but then she nodded. "Come up." Her apartment was beautiful, floor-to-ceiling windows letting in pale spring light, white walls, mid-century furniture, plants everywhere. It smelled like fresh coffee and the cedar candles she always burned when she was anxious. She gestured toward the sectional sofa. I sat. She stayed standing, arms crossed loosely, like she was bracing for impact. I pulled the necklace box from my purse. "I brought this again, in case you changed your mind about wearing it. It's not about tradition or anything. It's just, it was mine on my wedding day. I thought maybe a piece of me could be with you." She looked at the box, but didn't reach for it. "Mom, that's sweet, really, but James's family, they have this heirloom thing, his grandmother's set. Everyone on their side wears it. It's kind of non-negotiable." I nodded, slowly. "Of course, I get it. Family traditions matter." An awkward beat passed. The clock wall ticked too loudly. "So, tell me about the wedding. Napa, that's gorgeous. Vineyard, outdoor ceremony?" "Yeah, small, like really small." She shifted her weight. "We're keeping it intimate, immediate family only, plus a few close friends. No big production." Immediate family. The phrase landed like a stone in still water. I swallowed. "Sophia, am I not immediate family?" She finally sat down, on the far end of the couch, knees drawn up. "It's complicated, Mom." "Complicated how?" She stared at her hands. "Dad, the stuff with Dad." My stomach dropped. Mark, the name alone tasted like rust. "We haven't talked about your father in years. What does he have to do with your wedding?" "Everything," she said softly, "because he's part of it now." I felt the room tilt. "What are you talking about?" She stood up again, walked to the kitchen island, poured herself a glass of water she didn't drink. "He reached out a couple years ago. We've been talking. He's sober. Has been for a while. He's better." Better. The word echoed. The man who left us with nothing but a half-empty checking account and a child who cried herself to sleep for months was better now? And you didn't tell me? "I didn't know how. You always said he was toxic, that letting him back in would hurt me more. But he's changed, Mom, and he wants to be there. For me." The pieces started sliding together, cold and sharp. "Be there for the wedding." She nodded. "He's walking me down the aisle." I couldn't speak for a second. My throat closed. Walking her down the aisle. The image I'd carried since she was tiny, me in a mother of the bride dress, arm linked with hers, both of us crying happy tears, shattered like glass. "And me?" I finally managed. "Where do I fit in that picture?" She looked away. "That's why it's small. That's why it's immediate family. James's parents, they want everything to feel seamless, no drama. And after everything?" "After everything?" My voice came out quieter than I meant. "What everything, honey?" She met my eyes then, and I saw it, something hard and hurt flickering behind the green I'd always thought looked so much like mine. "You know what I mean." "I really don't." She exhaled sharply. "Dad, the stuff with Dad." My stomach dropped. Mark, the name alone tasted like rust. "We haven't talked about your father in years. What does he have to do with your wedding?" "Everything," she said softly, "because he's part of it now." I felt the room tilt. "What are you talking about?" She stood up again, walked to the kitchen island, poured herself a glass of water she didn't drink. "He reached out a couple years ago. We've been talking. He's sober. Has been for a while. He's better." Better. The word echoed.
The man who left us with nothing but a half-empty checking account and a child who cried herself to sleep for months was better now? And you didn't tell me? I didn't know how. You always said he was toxic, that letting him back in would hurt me more. But he's changed, Mom, and he wants to be there. For me. The pieces started sliding together, cold and sharp. Be there for the wedding, she nodded. He's walking me down the aisle. I couldn't speak for a second. My throat closed. Walking her down the aisle. The image I'd carried since she was tiny, me in a mother of the bride dress, arm linked with hers, both of us crying happy tears, shattered like glass. And me? I finally managed. Where do I fit in that picture? She looked away. That's why it's small. That's why it's immediate family. James's parents, they want everything to feel seamless, no drama. And after everything? After everything? My voice came out quieter than I meant. What everything, honey? She met my eyes then, and I saw it, something hard and hurt flickering behind the green I'd always thought looked so much like mine. You know what I mean. I really don't, she exhaled sharply. Dad, the stuff with Dad. My stomach dropped. Mark, the name alone tasted like rust. We haven't talked about your father in years. What does he have to do with your wedding? Everything, she said softly, because he's part of it now. I felt the room tilt. What are you talking about? She stood up again, walked to the kitchen island, poured herself a glass of water she didn't drink. He reached out a couple years ago. We've been talking. He's sober, has been for a while. He's better. Better. The word echoed. The man who left us with nothing but a half-empty checking account and a child who cried herself to sleep for months was better now? And you didn't tell me? I didn't know how. You always said he was toxic, that letting him back in would hurt me more. But he's changed, Mom, and he wants to be there. For me. The pieces started sliding together, cold and sharp. Be there for the wedding, she nodded. He's walking me down the aisle. I couldn't speak for a second. My throat closed. Walking her down the aisle. The image I'd carried since she was tiny, me in a mother of the bride dress, arm linked with hers, both of us crying happy tears, shattered like glass. And me? I finally managed. Where do I fit in that picture? She looked away. That's why it's small. That's why it's immediate family. James's parents, they want everything to feel seamless, no drama. And after everything? After everything? My voice came out quieter than I meant. What everything, honey? She met my eyes then, and I saw it, something hard and hurt flickering behind the green I'd always thought looked so much like mine. You know what I mean. I really don't, she exhaled sharply. Dad, the stuff with Dad. My stomach dropped. Mark, the name alone tasted like rust. We haven't talked about your father in years. What does he have to do with your wedding? Everything, she said softly, because he's part of it now. I felt the room tilt. What are you talking about?
The drive back from Portland felt longer than the drive down. 3 hours stretched into something endless, the rain turning the highway into a smeared watercolor of red taillights and gray sky. I kept the radio off. Silence seemed safer than music that might remind me of happier drives. Sophia in the passenger seat at 16, singing off-key to Taylor Swift, begging me to stop for In-N-Out even though we were nowhere near one. By the time I pulled into my driveway in Bellevue, it was after 9. The house was dark except for the porch light I'd left on out of habit. I sat in the car for a while, engine idling, staring at the front door like it might open and let the old version of my life walk out to greet me. It didn't. Inside, I dropped my keys on the hall table and went straight to the attic stairs. I hadn't been up there in years, not since I'd boxed up the last of Mark's things after the divorce papers were signed. The attic smelled like dust and old cardboard, the kind of smell that clings to memories you've tried to forget. I pulled the string on the bare bulb. Weak yellow light spilled over stacks of Rubbermaid bins labeled in Sharpie. Sophia baby, Sophia school, Christmas decor, Mark, do not open. I dragged the Sophia school bin into the middle of the floor and knelt beside it. Yearbooks, report cards, science fair ribbons.
a cracked ceramic handprint from kindergarten. I lifted things out carefully, like I was handling evidence in a case I didn't want to solve. Near the bottom, under a stack of old spiral notebooks, I found it. A plain white envelope, unsealed, addressed to me in Sophia's teenage handwriting. No stamped, no postmark. Just my name in the angry, looping cursive she used when she was furious. I sat back on my heels. My pulse thumped in my ears. Inside was a single sheet of lined paper, torn from one of those same notebooks. Mom, I know what you did. I heard you on the phone with Aunt Lisa last month. You said you'd never let Dad back in our lives, even if he begged on his knees. You said he didn't deserve a second chance. But he was trying. He sent money every month for 2 years. You never told me. You sent it back. Why didn't you tell me he wanted to see me? Why did you make me think he just disappeared and didn't care? I found the letters in your desk drawer, the ones he wrote, the ones you never answered. I read them all. He said he was sorry. He said he was getting help. He asked to take me to the father-daughter dance in 8th grade. You told him no. I hate you for this. I hate that you decided for me. Sophia, senior year. The paper trembled in my hand. I read it again and again. Each pass carved the words deeper. I remembered that year. Sophia had been 17, applying to colleges, fighting with me about curfews and college choices. She'd been distant, slamming doors, spending hours in her room texting someone I assumed was a boy from school. I chalked it up to normal teenage rebellion. Never suspected she'd gone through my desk. Never suspected she'd found the letters Mark had sent. Handwritten apologies on cheap stationery, postmarked from Reno, then Vegas, then somewhere in Arizona. I'd opened the first one, read the promises of sobriety and steady work, and felt nothing but rage. He'd left us broke and broken. He didn't get to waltz back in with pretty words. So I'd sent the checks back, torn the letters in half, told Lisa on the phone, late one night when I thought Sophia was asleep, that I'd burn every bridge if it meant keeping him away from my daughter. I'd meant it. I still believed I'd done the right thing. But she'd heard, and she'd carried it. All these years. I sat there on the attic floor until my knees ached, the bulb buzzing overhead. The house creaked around me, the familiar settling sounds of beams and pipes that used to feel comforting. Now they sounded like accusations. I pulled out my phone. My thumb hovered over Sophia's name. I hit call before I could talk myself out of it. It rang 4 times. Then her voice, recorded, cheerful. Hey, it's Sophia. Leave a message. Beep. Sophia, I started, my voice cracking on her name. It's Mom. I found the letter, the one you wrote senior year, about your dad, about me. I didn't know you'd seen those things. I didn't know you felt that way. I thought I was protecting you. I swear that's all I ever wanted. Please call me. Let me explain. I'll listen to whatever you need to say. I need to hear your voice. Please. I hung up, stared at the screen. No dots, no reply. I texted instead. Soph, I left you a voicemail. I found the letter from senior year. I'm so sorry you carried that alone. Can we talk? About Dad, about everything. I love you. Sent. I waited, refreshed. Nothing. The next morning I woke on the attic floor, neck stiff, eyes swollen. The letter was still clutched in my hand like a confession. I folded it carefully, tucked it back into the envelope, and slid the bin back where it belonged. Downstairs, I made coffee I didn't drink and stared at my phone. Around noon it buzzed, a text from Sophia. 1 line. Don't. Just don't. That was it. No explanation, no anger, just a wall. I stared at those 3 words until they blurred. Don't what? Don't explain, don't apologize, don't try. I set the phone down, walked to the living room window. Outside, the neighbor's cherry tree was starting to bloom, pink petals against the gray, life moving forward while mine felt frozen. That afternoon, I called Aunt Lisa. She picked up on the second ring. Ellie, everything okay? No, I said, not really. Did Sophia ever talk to you about Mark, about the letters, about me keeping him away? A long pause. She did, a few years back, right after college. She was angry, hurt, said she felt like you'd stolen something from her. Why didn't you tell me? Because she asked me not to. Said she needed time. I thought she'd come around. I thought you two would work it out like always. We didn't. Lisa sighed. I'm sorry, honey. I should have said something. I hung up feeling smaller than I had in years. That night I sat at the kitchen table with a glass of wine and the old photo albums. Pictures of Sophia at 3, gap-tooth grin, clinging to my leg. Sophia at 10, braces shining, holding a soccer trophy. Sophia at 18, graduation cap tilted, arms around my neck. In every photo, it was just us. No Mark. No shadow. But the shadow had been there all along, quiet, patient, waiting for its moment. And now it had a name, a face, a place at her wedding. While I sat here holding memories that suddenly felt like evidence against me, I closed the album, turned off the lights. In the dark, the house felt too big, too quiet. And for the first time in 22 years, I wondered if the life I'd built, the one I'd sacrificed everything for, was the one thing standing between my daughter and the happiness she deserved, or if I was just the excuse she needed to finally let me go.
May rolled in wet and gray, the kind of Pacific Northwest spring that makes you forget summer ever existed. I'd stopped checking Sophia's social media every hour. The habit had become a kind of self-harm. Instead, I threw myself into work. Extra office hours, college fair planning, anything to keep my hands and mind busy. But the wedding date loomed like a storm cloud on the calendar, June 15th, less than 6 weeks away. I still hadn't received an invitation. I still hadn't heard her voice since that single cold text. Don't. Just don't. Then, on a Tuesday afternoon, a message appeared from an unknown number. Hi, Eleanor. This is Claire Reed, James's older sister. I got your number from Sophia's contacts. Would you be willing to meet for coffee? There are some things I think you should know. No pressure, just a conversation. I'm in Tacoma tomorrow if that works. I stared at the screen for a full minute. James's sister. The polished, put-together one Sophia had mentioned once or twice. Corporate lawyer, always perfectly dressed, the kind of woman who probably never had a bad hair day. Why would she reach out? Was this damage control? A warning? Or, God forbid, some kind of olive branch? I typed back before I could overthink it. Yes, I'd like that. Where and when? She suggested a small cafe on 6th Avenue in Tacoma, one of those places with exposed brick, reclaimed wood tables, and baristas who remember your order after one visit. I arrived 10 minutes early, nerves buzzing like caffeine I hadn't even had yet. I ordered a black coffee, nothing fancy, and claimed a corner table near the window. Rain streaked the glass in slow, lazy lines. Claire walked in at exactly 11. I recognized her from the few photos Sophia had shown me. Tall, dark hair pulled into a low chignon, navy blazer over a cream silk blouse, pearl studs. She scanned the room, spotted me, and offered a small, careful smile. Not warm, not cold, just measured. Eleanor, she said, extending a hand. Her grip was firm, professional. Claire, thank you for reaching out. She ordered an oat milk latte and sat across from me. Up close, she looked tired, fine lines around her eyes that concealer couldn't quite hide. She didn't waste time on small talk. I'm not here to speak for Sophia, she began, or for James. This is me, on my own. I've watched this situation unfold for months, and I don't like how it's playing out. I nodded, waiting. My coffee sat untouched. She reached into her tote and pulled out 2 photographs, sliding them across the table like evidence in a deposition. The first, Sophia and James at some outdoor event, string lights overhead, glasses of wine in hand, both laughing. Behind them, partially cropped but unmistakable, an older man with salt and pepper hair and Sophia's jawline. He had his arm around her shoulders. My breath caught. The second photo was clearer, the same man, full frame this time, hugging Sophia tightly on what looked like a restaurant patio. She was smiling, genuine, unguarded, the kind of smile she used to give me after a long day when I'd pick her up from dance practice with a milkshake in hand. That's Mark, I said. My voice sounded flat, distant. Claire nodded. My father-in-law now, apparently. Sophia's biological father. The word biological landed like a slap, as if the years I'd spent being her everything could be reduced to biology. How long? I asked. About 2.5 years. They reconnected when she was working on a project in Reno, some marketing campaign for a casino group. He saw her name on a roster, reached out. Coffee turned into weekly calls, then visits. He's been sober 8 years, has a steady job in construction management, owns a small condo outside Vegas. He's stable. Stable. The word tasted bitter. Mark had been stable long enough to father a child, long enough to walk out, long enough to leave us scraping by on food stamps for 6 months. But sure, 8 years clean made him stable. And he's paying for half the wedding, Claire continued. Venue deposit, photographer, open bar. James's parents covered the rest. They're traditional, big Catholic family, lots of rules about who pays what. But Dad insisted, said it was the least he could do after missing so much. I felt the room narrow. And Sophia, she wants him there, walking her down the aisle. Yes, Claire's voice softened a fraction. She told us the whole story, how he left when she was little, how you raised her alone, how she found letters he'd written years ago, how she felt you'd hidden them. She's angry, Eleanor, not just at him, at you too. She says you made the choice for her, that you decided he wasn't worth knowing. I looked down at the photos.
In the second one, Sophia's eyes were bright, her head resting against Mark's shoulder like she'd done it 100 times. I'd never seen that look on her face when we talked about him. Only hurt, only questions I tried to answer with silence. I thought I was protecting her, I said quietly. He was gambling away our rent money, lying, disappearing for days. When he came back with apologies and checks, I didn't trust it. I didn't want her to get hurt again. Claire didn't interrupt. She just listened, fingers laced around her cup.
The weeks after meeting Claire blurred into a slow-motion ache. May slipped away like sand through fingers I couldn't close. Every morning I woke with the same hollow feeling in my chest, the kind that makes you wonder if your heart has quietly relocated somewhere safer. I kept the calendar on the kitchen wall marked in red Sharpie, June 15th circled twice, once in hope, once in dread. The dress I'd bought on impulse hung in the closet like an accusation. Pale blue silk, knee-length, modest neckline, the kind of thing a mother of the bride wears when she's invited. I'd tried it on 3 times already, turning in front of the full-length mirror, practicing the smile I'd give Sophia when she walked down the aisle. Each time I looked ridiculous, a woman pretending she still belonged. I told no one at work. Not my principal, not the other counselors who'd ask how Sophia was doing. I smiled through staff meetings, nodded at wedding stories from colleagues whose daughters still sent save the dates with handwritten notes. She's planning something beautiful, I'd say. Napa, very intimate. The word intimate tasted like ash every time. Nights were worse. I'd sit on the couch with a cup of chamomile that went cold, scrolling through old photos on my phone until my eyes burned. Sophia at 5 in a tutu, arms wide for a hug. Sophia at 16 in her prom dress, rolling her eyes while I adjusted the straps. Sophia at 25, the last time we'd taken a real trip together, just the 2 of us to Cannon Beach, walking the shoreline at dusk, talking about nothing and everything. In every memory, I was there, necessary, chosen. Now I was optional. The envelope arrived on a Thursday in late May. Thick cream stock, no return address. My hand shook as I slid it open with a butter knife. Inside, a single card, elegant script on heavy paper. Dear Mom, I hope you understand. This day is about starting fresh. James's family is hosting everything. The rehearsal dinner, the ceremony, the reception. Dad will be there. He's part of this now. Please don't come. It would hurt more than help. I know that sounds cruel, but it's the truth. If you want to see, there's a live stream link. I'll send it the morning of. Private stream, just for you. I'm sorry. Sophia. I read it twice, then 3 times. The words didn't change. Live stream. Like I was a relative in another country. Like I was an afterthought with Wi-Fi. I sank to the kitchen floor, back against the cabinets, card still in my hand. The tile was cold through my jeans. I cried the way I hadn't since Mark left. Ugly, gasping sobs that echoed off the appliances. When the tears slowed, anger rose in their place, hot and unfamiliar. How dare she reduce me to a screen? How dare she decide my presence was a threat to her happiness? I'd given her every first word, first step, first heartbreak. I'd stayed when he didn't. And this was the thanks? I stood up, paced, poured a glass of red wine I didn't drink, then another. The alcohol didn't numb, it sharpened everything. I opened my laptop and searched Napa Valley wedding venues, June 15th. Stupid, pointless, but I found it anyway. A vineyard called V Satui, private event space, glowing reviews about golden hour light and rolling hills. Photos of brides in white against green vines. I zoomed in on one image, a couple exchanging vows under an arbor, families beaming in the background. I imagined myself there, off to the side, hidden behind a trellis, just close enough to see her face when she said, I do. The fantasy took root. Dangerous, addictive. I could drive down the night before, park somewhere discreet,
Walk the grounds early, blend into the crowd of vendors or distant relatives. See her in her dress, hear her vows, leave before anyone noticed. No confrontation, no drama, just witness. I told myself it wasn't crazy. Mothers did things like this, showed up uninvited because love doesn't always wait for permission. I pictured her turning, spotting me in the back row, eyes widening, then softening. Maybe she'd pause the ceremony. Maybe she'd walk over, hug me, whisper, "I'm glad you came." Maybe the whole stupid wall would crumble right there in the California sun. I booked a hotel in Napa for June 14th, non-refundable, 30-minute drive to the venue. I packed the blue dress, heels, a light wrap for the evening chill. I even practiced what I'd say if someone asked why I was there. I'm the mother of the bride. I just wanted to see her happy. Simple, true. The night before I was supposed to leave, June 13th, I sat on the edge of my bed, suitcase open, staring at the packed dress. My phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number, the live stream link, right on schedule. I clicked it, a placeholder's reign. Sophia and James, live stream, June 15th, 4 p.m. PDT. A countdown timer, 24 hours. I stared at it until my vision blurred. Then I did something I hadn't done in years. I called my ex-sister-in-law Lisa. She answered on the third ring. "Ellie, it's late. You okay?" "No," I said, my voice cracked. She sent a live stream link, told me not to come, said it would hurt more than help. Lisa was quiet for a long beat. Jesus, that's cold. I was going to go anyway. Drive down, watch from the edges. Don't. Why not? Because you'll break your own heart worse. You'll see her happy without you, and it'll feel like dying. And if she spots you, if security walks you out, or worse, if she pretends not to see you, you'll carry that forever. I pressed the phone harder to my ear. But what if she needs me there? What if she regrets it the second she says I do? Then she'll call you the next day, or the day after. But showing up uninvited isn't going to make her choose you. It'll just prove her point, that you don't listen, that you push. Tears burned my eyes again. I just want to see my daughter get married. I know, honey, but sometimes wanting isn't enough. I hung up, sat in the dark. The suitcase mocked me from the floor. Around 2 a.m., I canceled the hotel, lost the money, didn't care. I hung the blue dress back in the closet, tag still on. Then I went to the living room, opened my laptop, and stared at the livestream placeholder until the screen went black from inactivity. June 15th dawned gray and ordinary in Bellevue. I called in sick, first time in years, made coffee I didn't drink, sat on the couch in sweatpants in an old UW hoodie Sophia had left behind sophomore year. The clock ticked toward 4 p.m. When the stream went live, I clicked. There she was. White gown flowing like wire, hair in soft waves, makeup flawless. James in a charcoal suit, beaming. And Mark, gray at the temples now, but still tall, still handsome in that careless way, offering his arm. She took it. They walked down the aisle together. Pedals underfoot, string quartet playing Pachelbel. Guests standing, smiling, phones raised. No one looking for me. I watched the vows, the rings, the kiss, the cheers. I watched Mark toast later. To my little girl. I lost years, but today I got them back. Sophia smiled, never faltered. I closed the laptop at the first dance, sat in silence as the house settled around me. The dress stayed in the closet. I didn't cry again that night. I just felt empty, like the part of me that had always believed love would win had finally given up. And in its place was something quieter, something that hurt less, something almost like acceptance. Almost.
The days after the wedding felt like walking through fog, thick, disorienting, every step uncertain. June bled into July, then August. The livestream link had expired the morning after the ceremony, as if the universe wanted to make sure I couldn't replay it on loop. I didn't need to. The images were seared in. Sophia's hand on Mark's arm, the way she tilted her head when he whispered something during the father-daughter dance, the easy way she laughed at his toast. I'd closed the laptop before the cake cutting, but the damage was done. I'd seen enough to know she looked happy, truly happy, without me. I told myself I was done asking questions, done chasing. But grief doesn't listen to ultimatums. It digs, it whispers, it demands answers, even when you beg it to stop. So I started calling people I hadn't spoken to in years. First was Jenna,
Sophia's college roommate from UW. They'd been inseparable freshman year. Late-night study sessions, road trips to Portland for concerts, shared secrets over cheap wine. Jenna had moved to Seattle after graduation, married a software engineer, had a toddler now. We'd exchanged Christmas cards for a while, then drifted. I found her number in an old phone backup and texted first. "Hey Jenna, it's Eleanor, Sophia's mom. Hope you're well. Wondering if you have a minute to chat about Soph sometime? No pressure." She called back within the hour. "Eleanor? Oh my God, hi. I've been thinking about you. I saw the wedding photos on Instagram. It looked beautiful." Her voice was careful, the way people sound when they know they're stepping on broken glass. "Yeah," I said. "It did." A pause. Then, "She didn't invite you, did she?" "No." "Jesus, I'm so sorry." I swallowed. "Jenna, did she ever talk to you about why? About me? About her dad?" Another pause, longer this time. "Yeah, she did. A lot, actually. Especially the last couple years." I leaned against the kitchen counter, gripping the edge like it might keep me upright. "Tell me." She exhaled. "Okay, but promise me you won't hate her for this." She was confused, scared. "I won't hate her. I just need to understand." Jenna spoke slowly, like she was choosing each word with tweezers. It started when she reconnected with Mark. He didn't just show up out of nowhere. He'd been sending her messages on LinkedIn for months before she responded. Little things at first. "Saw your post about the campaign. Proud of you." Then coffee when he was in town for work. He told her he'd been sober, in therapy, that he regretted everything. He showed her old photos of her as a baby, ones she'd never seen, said he'd kept them all these years. I closed my eyes, and she believed him. She wanted to, badly. You know how she always felt like there was this hole where a dad should be. Even when she said she was fine without one, it was there. Mark filled it, or at least he made her think he could. I nodded, even though she couldn't see me. "What about me?" "That's where it got messy. Mark told her you'd hidden letters from him, exaggerated how many times he tried to reach out, said you'd torn up checks he sent for her college fund, made it sound like you were punishing him and her out of spite. She started doubting everything you'd ever told her about why he left. She said she felt like you'd lied to her whole life." The words landed like punches, one after another. I remembered the checks. Small ones at first, then bigger when he hit a lucky streak at the tables. I'd sent them back every time, return to sender, because I didn't want his gambling money anywhere near her. I didn't want him thinking he could buy forgiveness. "But I never lied," I said quietly. "I just protected her." "I know," Jenna said. "Soph knows it too, deep down. But she was angry, and anger makes people rewrite history. She started seeing you as the gatekeeper who kept her from having a normal family. When James came along, steady, rich parents, big happy clan, she saw what she'd missed. And James's mom, God, Eleanor, that woman is something else." I straightened. "What do you mean?" "Soph told me Mrs. Reed, James's mom, made comments. Subtle at first. Your mother sounds like she's had a hard life. We don't want any drama at the wedding. It's best to keep things elegant. Soph never defended you, not once. She just let it slide. I think she was embarrassed. Not of you exactly, of how different your worlds were. You worked 2 jobs to send her to college. They have a vacation home in Tahoe. She felt caught between, and instead of bridging it, she picked the side that felt easier." Easier. The word stung worse than anything else. I thanked Jenna, hung up, sat in silence until the room grew dark. The next day, I called my old neighbor, Mrs. Callahan, who'd babysat Sophia when she was little, then a cousin in Spokane who'd asked jazz for Thanksgivings. Piece by piece, the puzzle shifted. Mark hadn't just reconnected, he'd orchestrated. Sent Sophia screenshots of old texts where I'd vented to Lisa about him, told her I'd badmouthed him at teachers, to friends, to anyone who'd listen, made himself the victim of a bitter ex-wife who'd poisoned the well. And Sophia had swallowed it, not because she was cruel, because she was wounded, because abandonment leaves a scar that looks for someone, anyone, to heal it, even if that someone is the same person who caused it. But there was one more call I made, to Lisa again. She picked up immediately. "Ellie, talk to me." "I've been hearing things," I said, from Jenna, from others, about how Mark spun the story, about how Sophia let James's family think I was less than.
Lisa sighed. I heard some of it too, from Sophia herself last Christmas. She was tipsy, crying on my couch. Said she felt tilty, but didn't know how to fix it. Said inviting you would make the day about old fights instead of her future. Said James's mom had already booked everything, assuming it would be small, intimate, no complicated history. So she chose peace over me. She chose avoidance. That's different. I rubbed my temples. I don't know how to feel anymore. Angry, sad, both? All of it, Lisa said, and none of it fixes what's broken. But you're not the villain here, Ellie. You never were. She's just lost right now, trying to build something that doesn't hurt. I hung up and walked to the backyard. The garden I tended for years, roses, lavender, hydrangeas, was in full bloom, oblivious to everything. I sat on the bench Sophia had painted purple when she was 12, ran my fingers over the chipped edges. The anger came then, finally, hot, clean, righteous. Not at Sophia, at Mark for manipulating her guilt, at James's family for their quiet classism, at myself for not seeing the cracks sooner. But beneath the anger was something sharper, clarity. My daughter hadn't rejected me because I'd failed her. She'd rejected me because facing me meant facing all the ways she'd failed herself. And that realization hurt more than any exclusion ever could, because it meant the door wasn't locked from my side. It was locked from hers, and only she had the key. I stayed in the garden until the sun dipped low, painting the sky in bruised purples and golds. When I finally went inside, I didn't turn on the lights. I just sat in the dark, listening to the house breathe, and let the truth settle. It wasn't pretty. It wasn't fair. But it was real. And for the first time since the wedding, that felt like enough.
June 15th, 2026 arrived like any other Sunday in Bellevue. Gray skies, light drizzle, the kind of weather that makes you want to stay inside with coffee and regret. I called in sick again, told my principal it was a migraine. She didn't question it. I'd never taken more than 2 days off in a row in 23 years. I stayed in my pajamas until noon, then showered, dressed in the pale blue silk anyway. Not because I was going anywhere, just because wearing it felt like armor, or maybe morning clothes. The fabric was cool against my skin, expensive in a quiet the way I'd always tried to be for her. The house was too quiet. No music, no TV. Just the hum of the refrigerator and the occasional drip from the kitchen faucet I'd been meaning to fix for months. I made tea, Earl Grey, Sophia's favorite when she was home, and carried the mug to the living room. Laptop on the coffee table, screen dark. I sat on the couch, legs tucked under me, staring at the closed lid like it might burn me if I touched it. At 3:45 p.m. Pacific, I opened it. The live stream link was already live, a frozen thumbnail of grapevines and white chairs in neat rows. A small countdown in the corner. Sophia and James, private stream, begins in 15 minutes. I clicked anyway. A holding screen appeared. Soft piano music, looping footage of the vineyard at golden hour. No chat, no comments, just me and the silence. At 4 sharp, the feed switched. There she was. Sophia stood at the top of a grassy aisle, sunlight filtering through the arbor behind her. The dress was everything I'd imagined and nothing I'd prepared for. Ivory lace, off the shoulder, fitted through the bodice, then flowing into a soft train that caught the breeze. Her hair was half up, loose curls framing her face, a simple veil trailing behind. She looked like a dream. She looked like my baby girl grown into a woman I barely recognized. Mark offered his arm. He wore a charcoal suit, silver tie, hair neatly combed. He smiled down at her the way fathers are supposed to smile at their daughters on their wedding day. Proud, a little teary, completely present. She slipped her hand through his elbow. They started down the aisle. The camera was positioned near the back, probably on a tripod near the last row. I could see the guests, James's large family filling the first several rows. Grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins in pastel dresses and seersucker suits. Friends I didn't know. No one from our side, no cousins from Spokane, no Aunt Lisa. Just them. The string quartet played canon in D, petals scattered under their feet, pale pink roses. Sophia's steps were slow, deliberate. She kept her eyes forward, on James waiting at the altar in a matching charcoal suit, hands clasped, grinning like he'd won the lottery. I watched her face as she passed each row. She smiled at people I'd never met, nodded, blinked back tears. When she reached the front, Mark lifted her veil, kissed her cheek, and placed her hand in James's. The officiant began. I didn't hear most of the vows. The sound was tinny through the laptop speakers, drowned out by the blood rushing in my ears. I caught fragments. To love and cherish, in sickness and in health, for as long as we both shall live. Rings exchanged, simple gold bands. A kiss, gentle, lingering. Cheers erupted. Confetti cannons popped. Sophia laughed, head thrown back, the sound cutting through the speakers like a knife. Then the reception portion. Tables under a white tent, very light strung overhead. The camera panned across toasts. James's best man, his father. Then Mark stood. He tapped his glass. The room quieted. To my little girl, he began, voice steady, warm.
I lost years with you, too many, but today I got them back. Watching you walk towards your future, it's more than I ever deserved. Sophia, you're kind, brilliant, beautiful, and I'm so damn proud to be your dad." He paused, looked straight into the camera, almost like he knew I was watching. "Thanks to her mother, for stepping aside when it mattered, for raising her into the woman she is. We may have had our differences, but today's not about the past. It's about love, and love won today." The camera caught Sophia's face in close-up. Her smile faltered for half a second, just a flicker, eyes starting sideways, as if searching for something, or someone. Then she recovered, lifted her glass, laughed again. The moment passed. I stared at the frozen frame of her face. That flicker, regret, guilt, or just the lighting. I didn't know. I couldn't breathe. The room spun. I slammed the laptop shut so hard the screen cracked, a thin spider web in the corner. I stood up, paced, hand shaking. The blue dress suddenly felt suffocating. I tore it off, threw it on the floor like it had betrayed me. Outside, the rain had stopped. The backyard was still, roses heavy with droplets. I walked out barefoot, grass cold under my feet, sat on the purple bench Sophia had painted all those years ago, wrapped my arms around myself. Strangers had celebrated what I'd been denied. They'd clapped when she said I do. They'd toasted her happiness. They'd watched her dance her first dance with the father who'd left, while I sat here, alone, watching through a screen like some distant acquaintance. The anger came fast, then ebbed just as quickly, leaving exhaustion in its wake. I thought about calling someone, Lisa, Jenna, anyone. But what would I say? That my daughter got married and I wasn't there? That her father thanked me for stepping aside like I'd done him a favor? Instead, I stayed outside until the sky darkened. Mosquitoes bit my arms. I didn't move. When I finally went back in, I picked up the cracked laptop, opened it again. The stream had ended. A replay button glowed on the screen. I hovered over it. Then I clicked delete. Not the file, the whole bookmark, the link, the memory of clicking it in the first place. I didn't need to watch it again. I'd seen enough. The dress stays on the floor all night. I slept on the couch, curled under an old quill, still in my slip. In the morning, the house smelled faintly of Earl Grey and roses carried in on the breeze. I made coffee, strong, black, sat at the kitchen table, and for the first time since the invitation never came, I let myself feel the full weight of it. Not just the exclusion, not just the betrayal, the quiet, brutal truth. My daughter had built a day without me in it, and it had been beautiful. That hurt more than anything, because it meant she could. And she did. I stared into my mug until the coffee went cold. Then I stood up, showered, dressed in jeans and a soft sweater, walked to the garden, and started weeding, one plant at a time, because life keeps growing, even when your heart feels like it stopped. And maybe, one day she'd notice the empty space where I used to be, and maybe she'd miss it, or maybe she wouldn't. Either way, I was still here, still breathing, still hers, even if she didn't choose me that day.
July turned sticky hot in Bellevue, the kind of summer that makes the air feel thick and the evergreens droop like they're tired of holding up the sky. I'd stopped marking days on the calendar. The red circle around June 15th had faded under layers of new pencil notes. Dentist appointments, staff meetings, reminders to water the garden. Life had moved forward because it had to. I watered the roses, graded college recommendation letters for my seniors, smiled at colleagues who asked how the wedding went. Beautiful, I'd say. She looked radiant. No one pressed for details. People sense when a wound is still raw. I kept the cracked laptop in a drawer. I didn't replace it. Watching anything on my phone felt too intimate, too close to the screen that had shown me my daughter's vows without me in the frame. Nights were the hardest. I'd lie awake listening to the hum of the ceiling fan, replaying Mark's toast in my head. Thanks to her mother for stepping aside when it mattered. The words looped like a bad song on repeat. I'd get up, make chamomile, sit on the porch swing until the mosquitoes drove me back inside. Forgiveness felt impossible. For him, for her, for myself. Then came the night of July 29th, a Wednesday. I'd fallen asleep on the couch around 10, some mindless HGTV rerun flickering blue light across the living room. The phone buzzed on the coffee table, once, twice, insistent. I reached for it groggily, expecting a spam call or maybe Lisa checking in. Unknown number, 11:47 p.m. I almost let it go to voicemail, but something, maybe exhaustion, maybe the tiniest flicker of hope, made me swipe to answer. Hello? A breath. Then her voice, small and cracked. Mom? The room tilted. I sat up so fast the remote clattered to the floor. Sophia? Another breath, shaky. Yeah, it's me. I pressed the phone harder against my ear, like that could pull her closer. Are you okay? Where are you? I'm home, in Portland. James is asleep. I couldn't... Her voice broke. I couldn't sleep. Silence stretched between us.
Not the cold silence of the past months. This one was heavy, full of everything unsaid. "I saw the footage," she whispered. "The wedding video, the whole thing. James's mom sent me the raw files last week. I finally watched it tonight. All of it." My heart thudded against my ribs. "Okay." "Dad's toast." She swallowed hard. "I didn't know he was going to say that, about you stepping aside. I didn't ask him to. I swear. I froze when he said it. Everyone clapped. I smiled, but inside I felt sick." I closed my eyes. The porch light filtered through the curtains, painting faint stripes across the floor. I kept waiting for you to appear, in the background, in a corner, anywhere. I kept looking over my shoulder during the ceremony, during pictures, like maybe you'd come anyway, like maybe you'd ignore what I said and just be there, because that's what you always did. You showed up, even when I didn't deserve it. Tears burned behind my eyelids. I didn't speak. Couldn't. When the video ended, I sat on the bathroom floor and cried so hard I thought I'd throw up. James heard me, asked what was wrong. I told him everything, about how I'd asked you not to come, about how I'd let his family push you out, about how I'd convinced myself it was kinder, cleaner. But watching that video, seeing Dad walk me down the aisle, seeing everyone celebrate like it was perfect, it felt wrong. All of it felt wrong, because you weren't there, and I made sure of it. Her voice cracked again. "I'm so sorry, Mom. I was scared of the questions, scared of the looks, scared that if you were there, people would see the cracks. James's mom kept saying no drama, like you were the drama, and I let her. I let Dad rewrite everything. I let myself believe I needed a fresh start that didn't include you. But I was wrong. I was so wrong." I let out a breath I didn't know I'd been holding. "Sophia," she rushed on, "I don't expect you to forgive me. Not tonight, not ever, maybe, but I needed to say it. I needed you to hear it. I miss you. I miss talking to you about stupid things. I miss your laugh. I miss the way you always knew what to say when I was falling apart. I miss my mom." The words hung there, fragile and real. I wiped my eyes with the sleeve of my old hoodie. "I watched too," I said quietly. "The live stream. Every second. You were beautiful. You looked happy." I wasn't. Not completely. There was this hole the whole time, like I was performing happiness instead of feeling it. Another long silence. "I'm coming home next month, Labor Day weekend, alone. James is going to his parents' lake house. I told him I needed space. I need to see you, face to face, if you'll let me." I looked around the living room, the quilt she'd loved as a kid still draped over the arm of the couch, the photo of us at Cannon Beach still on the mantel, everything exactly as it had been when she left. "Of course I'll let you," I said. My voice sounded steadier than I felt. "This is still your home, too." She let out a small, broken laugh. "I don't deserve that." "Maybe not, but it's true anyway." We stayed on the phone for another 20 minutes, not fixing anything, not planning apologies or explanations, just breathing together. She told me about the honeymoon, Maui, beautiful but exhausting, about how James was kind but didn't always know how to sit with hard things, about how she'd started therapy 2 weeks after the wedding. Small confessions, tiny steps. When we finally hung up, it was past 1 a.m. I sat there in the dark, phone still warm in my hand. I didn't sleep much that night, but for the first time in months, the ache felt different. Not gone, not healed, just shared. The next morning, I woke early, made coffee, walked to the garden. The roses were still blooming, defiant against the heat. I clipped a few stems, pink and white, arranged them in the blue vase Sophia had made in pottery class when she was 14, set it on the kitchen table. I didn't know what would happen when she came. I didn't know if we'd cry or yell or sit in awkward silence, but I knew one thing. She'd called. She'd chosen to reach out. In the middle of the night, when the world was quiet and the truth felt heaviest, she'd picked up the phone and said my name. That wasn't forgiveness, not yet, but it was a beginning, and after everything, a beginning felt like enough. I stood at the window, watching the sunrise over the evergreens, and let myself hope, just a little, that maybe one day she'd choose me again, not because she had to, but because she wanted to.
Labor Day weekend arrived with the first real hint of fall in the air. Cool mornings, leaves just starting to turn gold at the edges, the kind of crispness that makes you want to pull on a sweater and pretend summer never happened. Sophia texted the Thursday before. Flight lands at SEA 2:17 p.m. Friday. Can you pick me up? I'll take the train if not. I replied immediately. I'll be there. Curbside. Love you. No emojis, no exclamation points, just the truth. I spent Thursday cleaning like I was preparing for inspection, not because the house was dirty, it wasn't, but because movement kept the anxiety from swallowing me whole. I scrubbed the kitchen counters until they gleamed, washed the lavender quilt from her old room, fluffed the pillows on the couch. I bought groceries she used to love, fresh strawberries, whole milk for coffee, the good sourdough from the bakery on Main. I even baked chocolate chip cookies, her favorite recipe, the one with extra vanilla and sea salt on top. They cooled on the counter while I stood at the window, watching the street like a teenager waiting for a first date. Friday afternoon, SeaTac was its usual chaos. Families dragging suitcases, business travelers on phones, the smell of pretzels and jet fuel. I parked in the cell phone lot, waited for her text. It came at 2:35. Baggage claim. Black hoodie, gray backpack. See you soon. I pulled up to the curb outside Arrivals. She was already there, hood up against the light rain, backpack slung over one shoulder, rolling a small suitcase. She looked smaller than I remembered, or maybe I was just seeing her through new eyes. When she spotted my car, she hesitated for half a second, then hurried over. I got out. We stood there for a beat. Rain pattering on the roof of the car, people streaming past us, before she dropped the suitcase handle and stepped into my arms. She smelled like airport coffee and the same vanilla shampoo she'd used since high school. She held on tight, face buried in my shoulder, and I felt her shoulders shake, once, twice. I didn't speak, just held her back, one hand on her hair, the way I used to when she was little and scared of thunderstorms. When we finally pulled apart, her eyes were red but dry. Hi, Mom. Hi, baby. The drive home was quiet at first, rain on the windshield, wipers sweeping slow arcs. She stared out the passenger window, fingers twisting the strap of her backpack. I almost didn't come, she said after we passed Federal Way. I sat at the gate thinking maybe I should just turn around, tell James I changed my mind, fly back to Portland and pretend this call never happened. Why didn't you? Because running is what got us here. She glanced at me. I'm tired of running from hard things. We didn't talk much more until we pulled into the driveway. The house looked the same as always, porch light on, garden still blooming despite the neglect of summer. She paused at the front door, hand on the knob, like she was stepping into a museum of her own childhood. Inside, the smell of cookies hit us first. She stopped in the foyer, inhaled deeply. You baked. Couldn't help it. She set her bags down, walked straight to the kitchen, picked up a still warm cookie, took a bite, closed her eyes. God, I missed this. We sat on the porch swing after dinner, takeout Thai from the place she used to beg for on Fridays. Rain had stopped. The air smelled like wet earth and cedar. She pulled her knees up, wrapped her arms around them. I need to say it all, out loud. No interruptions, okay? I nodded. She took a breath. After the wedding, I kept telling myself it was fine.
James and I went to Maui, we posted pictures, everyone commented how perfect it looked, but every night I'd lie awake next to him and feel this emptiness, like I'd left something important behind. When his mom sent the full video, I watched it alone in the bathroom at 3 a.m. I saw Dad's toast. I saw my own face when he said it, smiling like nothing was wrong. But I remember what I felt: shame, guilt, like I'd betrayed you in front of everyone and no one even noticed. She paused, wiped her eyes with her sleeve. Dad didn't just reconnect. He fed me doubts, little by little. Texts with screenshots of old emails you sent to Aunt Lisa, stories about how he poisoned me against him. He said you were afraid I'd love him more, that you kept me from a real family because you were bitter. And I believed parts of it, because it was easier to admit I'd let myself be manipulated, easier than facing that I'd chosen him over you to fill a hole he created in the first place. Her voice cracked. James's family didn't help. His mom would say things like, "Your mother sounds lovely, but weddings are stressful enough without extra tension." Or, "We want this to feel joyful, not complicated." I never corrected her. I never said, "My mom is the reason I'm standing here at all." I let them think you were the problem, because if I defended you, I'd have to admit I'd hurt you, and I wasn't ready for that. I stayed quiet, let her words settle between us like rain on the porch roof. When I watched the video, I kept looking for you in the crowd, even though I knew you weren't there. I wanted to see your face. I wanted you to be proud. And when you weren't, when the camera panned over empty space where you should have been, it broke something in me. I realized I'd built my fresh start on quicksand, and the person I hurt most was the one who'd never left. She turned to me then, eyes searching mine. "I'm not asking you to forget or forgive right now. I just need you to know I see it. All of it. The nights you worked doubles so I could have dance lessons, the way you sat through every school play even when you were exhausted, the way you never once made me feel like I was a burden after Dad left. I took that for granted, and I'm sorry." Tears slipped down my cheeks. I didn't wipe them away. I protected you from him because I saw what he could do, the lies, the disappearing. When he came back with apologies and money, I didn't trust it. I thought one more heartbreak would shatter you. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe I should have let you decide. But I was scared too, scared of losing you to him. She reached for my hand, squeezed. "I know." We sat there until the porch light came on automatically, moths fluttering against the bulb. The swing creaked softly under us. "I'm in counseling," she said after a while. "Couples, with James. Individual, too. He's trying to understand. His family, they're not bad people, just sheltered. But I told him we're not doing holidays with them this year, not until things feel right." I nodded. One step at a time. She leaned her head on my shoulder. "Can I stay the weekend? Not just tonight. All 3 days." "Of course." We didn't fix everything that night. There were still questions, still hurts that would take years to soften. But we started, really started, talking, listening, sitting in the discomfort instead of running from it. When we finally went inside, she hugged me again at the bottom of the stairs. Long, tight, no words. I watched her climb to her old room, door clicking shut softly. I stood in the hallway a long time, hand on the banister, feeling the house breathe around me. It wasn't perfect, it wasn't whole, but it was honest. And for the first time in a long time, that felt like enough.
It's February now, 2027. The rain has returned to Bellevue in full force. Steady, gray sheets that blur the evergreens and make the windows weep. I'm 59 in a few months, though the mirror doesn't seem to care about birthdays anymore. The lines around my eyes are deeper, but so is the quiet inside me. Not empty, just settled. Like a house after the storm has passed and the cleanup is done. Sophia and I have been talking regularly since that Labor Day weekend. Not every day. Neither of us wants to force it back to what it was.
but often enough that the silences between calls don't feel like punishments. Texts come in the middle of ordinary moments. A photo of her new office plant. It's thriving, unlike my succulents last year. A link to a recipe she wants to try. Remember when you made this and I complained about the raisins? A simple, thinking of you today. Small bridges rebuilt one plank at a time. She and James are still together. They're in couples counseling twice a month. She told me last fall that they almost didn't make it through the first 3 months after the wedding. The guilt ate at her. The pressure from his family, subtle, polite, relentless, made him defensive. They fought about holidays, about boundaries, about whether inviting me to Thanksgiving would stir things up. In the end, they spent it in Portland, just the two of them, ordered pizza, watched old movies. She said it was the first holiday in years that felt peaceful. Mark has faded back to the edges. She still talks to him occasionally, birthday calls, a text here and there. But the weekly dinners stopped after she confronted him about the toast. She told him it hurt her more than it helped. He apologized, said he'd been trying to own the moment, but she saw through it. The charm that once pulled her in now looked like manipulation. She hasn't cut him off completely, she's not ready for that, but the pedestal is gone. She told me once, voice low over coffee, I wanted a dad so badly I almost lost my mom trying to make one. James's family is another story. His mother still sends holiday cards with photos of the whole clan at the lake house. Sophia frames them but doesn't display them. She started pushing back, politely, firmly. Mom will be invited next time, she told Mrs. Reed at Christmas. There was a long pause on the other end of the phone, then it clipped, of course. No invitation has come yet, but Sophia says she's not holding her breath. She's learning that peace doesn't always mean everyone gets along. Sometimes it means knowing who gets space in your life and who doesn't. The pearl necklace came back in November. She mailed it with a short note. Mom, I tried wearing it on our 1-year anniversary dinner. It didn't feel right. Not because it's not beautiful, it is, but because it belongs with you until there's someone else who needs to borrow a piece of our history. Hold it for me, for maybe a daughter someday, or just for the day I feel ready to carry it again. Love, Self. I keep it in the velvet box on my dresser now, next to the photo of us at Cannon Beach. Every so often I open it, run my thumb over the smooth pearls, and remember the morning I wore them, nervous, hopeful, 28, and already sensing the cracks in my marriage. I don't wear them, not yet. They're waiting, like I am. We've had hard days. Christmas was rough. She came up for 2 nights. We decorated the tree together, same ornaments she had made in elementary school, the ones with her school photo glued inside plastic balls. We laughed at the crooked star she'd painted when she was 7. We cooked turkey and stuffing, opened presents. I got her a new planner. She got me noise-canceling headphones for the long counseling sessions I still do at school. But when the clock struck midnight on Christmas Eve, she started crying. Quiet at first, then harder. She said she kept picturing the wedding, picturing me alone on my couch, watching through a screen. I stole that from you, she whispered, and I can't give it back. I held her on the couch until she fell asleep against my shoulder, the way she used to after nightmares. I didn't tell her it was okay, because it wasn't, not completely. But I told her we were here now, and here was something. Therapy has helped me too. I started seeing someone in October, a soft-spoken woman in her 60s who specializes in family estrangement. She doesn't rush forgiveness. She asked questions like, what would it look like if you let yourself grieve what was lost without blaming yourself for it? Or, can you love her and still hold space for your own hurt? I'm learning the answers aren't simple. Some days I feel generous, some days I feel robbed. Both are true. The biggest shift came in January. Sophia called on a Sunday afternoon. Voice steady. Mom, James and I are thinking about kids. Not right away, maybe next year. But we've been talking about it. A lot. I felt my throat tighten. That's wonderful, honey. Yeah. And I've been thinking, if we have a girl, I want to name her after you. Middle name, maybe. Eleanor. Or Ellie. So she grows up knowing where she comes from. The real story. Not just the pretty parts. I couldn't speak for a minute. Just sat there, hand over my mouth, tears slipping silently. You don't have to decide now, she rushed on. It's just, I want her to know you. The way I know you. The way you stayed. When I finally found my voice, I said, I'd be honored. We hung up after that. I walked to the garden even though it was winter. Bare branches, mulched dark with rain. I stood under the rose trellis that still holds the faint memory of last summer's blooms, and let myself cry. Not from pain this time. From something softer. Relief, maybe.
or recognition. Love doesn't always mean being chosen. I learned that the hard way, watching strangers raise glasses to my daughter's happiness while I sat alone with a cracked laptop. Sometimes love means standing anyway, outside the vineyard gates, rain-soaked, heart in pieces, still loving, still forgiving without being asked, still waiting. Because that's what a mother does. Even when it feels like dying. Even when the child you carried, raised, and would still die for, chooses someone else for the biggest day of her life. I don't know if we'll ever be exactly what we were. Maybe we'll never go back to daily calls and inside jokes and spontaneous weekend visits. Maybe the scar will always show, a thin white line across what used to be seamless. But we're here, talking, healing, hoping. And last week she sent a photo. Her and James at a park, her hand on her still flat stomach, a tentative smile. Caption: early days, scared, excited, thinking of you. I saved it to my favorites. I keep the pearl box open on my dresser now. Sometimes I take the necklace out, drape it across my wrist like a bracelet, feel its cool weight. I'm not waiting for an apology that erases everything. I'm waiting for the day she chooses me again. Not out of guilt, not out of obligation, but because she wants to. Because she remembers. Because love, the real kind, doesn't demand perfection. It just asks you to stay. And I always have. I still do. And maybe, one quiet, ordinary day, she'll walk through Waikor, arms open, and choose me too. Not because she has to, but because she finally sees what I always known. I was never outside. I was always home.